Hey guys, welcome to a new Tech Tip Tuesday where today we're going to talk about Google Jamboard. Now, kind of to start off, Google Jamboard is a digital whiteboard tool, and it's something that's been around for a couple years, and it's kind of received a lot of popularity over the last year, especially with remote learning going on. It took me a little bit of time to kind of hop on this bandwagon. I really thought that Google Jamboard needed some additional things before it really was good to go, and it still does need a little bit more work. Google has a little bit more work to do on this one before it's really perfect, but it's a work in progress, and it is a super great tool to use. So we're going to talk about that today, and kind of how to use it, how to share it with your students, how to make it look really great. All right, so to start off, digital whiteboard tools are basically a tool that you can use with technology that kind of gives you that whiteboard experience. So it's sort of like using a whiteboard where you can draw on it or you can interact with it. But the nice thing about Jamboard is it functions a little bit like Google Slides. So it gives you multiple screens, so you can kind of work on one screen, flip to the next, work on another, and it's super interactive. The other thing about it that's really great is it is collaborative. So a lot of digital whiteboards sort of give you this tool where you can work on it on your own, or you can give it to your students to work on your own, which you can do that with Google Jamboard. But the thing about this one is it's collaborative. So I can invite my students to the jam session that I am currently running, and we can all work on it together on individual devices. I can also change it so sometimes they can view it, sometimes they can edit it, and I can go back and forth throughout the process. So it's a nice way to collaborate with this interactive digital tool with your students in real time. The other thing that's really great about it is very versatile. There's a lot of things you can do with Jamboard, and I'm going to share a whole bunch of links down in the description box that have different ideas for Jamboard, that have different templates, ways to sort of use this app, and you'll kind of see all the different things you can do. It's just a super versatile tool. The other thing I love about it is it is part of the Google family. So unlike a lot of the other digital whiteboards out there, because it's part of Google, it automatically is in your Drive. It automatically shares really easy with Google Classroom. It automatically is the same login that you would use for your Google account. So you don't need anything extra. And I really love that about it too. It kind of provides an ease of use because it is part of that Google family as well. All right, so let's go ahead and look at Jamboard. So I have a jam session set up on here right now that I've put together, and I'll show you here kind of in our next little section of this how I put this together. We're going to kind of just ignore what it looks like right now and just talk about what we're doing with this. So first of all, with my Google Jam session, up here at the top I can see the different screens that I have. So if I want to flip back and forth between different things, I can click on these different things to go to a different screen. Similar to Google Slides, it's kind of like your slides. Over on the far left-hand side are all the different tools that I have. So I can click on this pen icon to get different types of a pen, different colors. There's the eraser. If I'm just trying to select and move things around, I've got my arrow. I can add a sticky note, which this is a really kind of neat tool to use, especially if you're having your students use it. You might want them to add sticky notes where it will kind of put these little notes all over the Jamboard. That's actually what this one right here that kind of gives the answer to the question about a fraction is. I can add images, I can add shapes. So if I want to draw a circle, let me kind of hold down on that, or a square, there's a bunch of different shape options. There's the text box, and then there is the laser pointer, which is kind of neat. So with the laser pointer, if I kind of draw on it, it just sort of gives me this temporary line. So maybe I'm teaching with my students and I want to draw their attention to something, I can kind of give them that little attention grabbing thing by using that laser pointer. I can also set my background. When I click on that, they have a few sort of pre-made backgrounds there. I almost always add my own. So this box that has the little black check mark in it, that's where I can add my own image. And that's what I have done with all of these slides. What you're basically seeing for the most part is a background that I've added as an image. And then I also can click clear frame. So I'm not going to click that right now because I have some sample things in this, but if a student had drawn all over the slide, or if I drew all over it, maybe I worked out a math problem or something, if I just click clear frame, it erases it all in one, which is kind of a handy feature to have. I also can share it. Now this is where the collaborative nature of Google Jamboard comes into place. So when I click on share, just like a lot of the other different Google family things, I can share it. Now there's a few different methods of sharing, and it's good to kind of know, first of all, why you want to share or how you want to share it with your students before you kind of go about this. So if you want to share it with your students just so they can view it, that's one thing. That's probably kind of the simplest way to share it. Just share it so they can open it up on their device and see it. That's one thing. If I want it for my students to be able to edit it, that's another thing, which that can be pretty simple. Now, if I want to have control though, if I want to be able to load my students in here and then maybe like they're all just able to view it, and I'll call on one kid, okay, how about this one student is going to edit it and work out the problem. So I want to just sort of allow maybe one at a time student to be able to edit the Jamboard. That's kind of a different thing. It's a different setup. Or if I kind of want to allow groups to edit at a time, that's kind of a different setup too. Or if I just want to share it out so my students have their own copy of this. That's another thing. So we're going to kind of talk about those different ways to share here really quick. So the first thing is if I just want to give them a link so that they can hop on and view it, or everyone can just hop on and edit it, and I'm not going to really control this over time. If I just click right here, generally it defaults to this. So it says where it says get link, it says it's restricted, only people who are added, which that's kind of how it defaults. But if I just want to be able to give out this link, if I click on that and then I change it, so now it says Abingdon Avon, so our school district, anyone with that email address who gets this link can get on and they can view it, okay? If that's all I want and I just want to copy that link and maybe share it to my students on Google Classroom, that is what I can do. However, if I want all my students to be able to get on it and edit it, I do need to change this to editor so that when this link is given to them, or anyone who has this link can get on there and they can edit it. Now, when the students are put in as editors, one nice thing with Jamboard too is they have some control. So if you have your whole class and you get them on Jamboard to edit, and you want, one group to go to a specific slide and they're going to work on that slide, and one group to go to a different slide and they're going to work on that slide, you can do that. You just have to instruct your students to know which slide or screen that they're going to. Not everyone has to be on the same one. It's kind of neat the way you can use it in that sense. So if I'm just giving them the link, that's all I have to do. Now, however, I'm the kind of teacher where I know that if I give all my students editing rights, there's going to be one kid that hops on there and they're going to do a bunch of scribbles and kind of mess it all up, and I might know that I need to kind of mute them here and there. So I wouldn't do this unless I really have a lot of confidence in my students. What I would do instead, click on share, and I want to add specific people. So if I go to my Google class, and let me just grab my robotics class, for example, and I click on people, I'm going to click on this top box, and that basically selects everyone. And I'm sure there's better ways to do this, but this is how I do it. I click on email, and it's going to open up this blank email with all of their names at the top. It's just a really easy way to copy. So it's got all their names up here at the top. So I'm just going to kind of click off to the side. I'm going to hit Control A, which is going to select all of them. I'm going to hit Control C, which is going to copy all of them. And then when I go back to my Jamboard and I hit Control V, it's going to paste them all there. So I've got all my students now here pasted, and it shows that they're going to be editors. I'm going to actually just make them all. I want them just to be viewers to start. So I'll click View, and then I'll click Send. I'm not going to do this because I don't really want all these students to be getting this right now. I'm going to just let my test account get it. but we're going to click send. So now that student is invited to view. Now this means that when the student goes to just jamboard.google.com, this is going to show up as something that they can just access. You can also give them that link from sharing to get to it, and that might be an easy way to allow them to get to it. But so now when the student goes to it, they are going to first just be a viewer, and I'll show you kind of what that looks like. So I am now on the iPad as the student to view this. So you'll kind of see right away, I just have this little eyeball down here. That means that I am only a viewer currently. So I can go to really any slide. If the teacher says, okay, I want everyone on slide number 4. I'm going to click on slide number 4 and it's going to take me there, and then I can see it on my screen. I just can't do anything. So now if the teacher went to slide number 4, let's get off of this, and I did something, we'll say maybe I'll get this pen tool. We're going to make it white. And we'll say I, kind of write something on the screen. Now for the student, I will see that. I'll be able to see that they wrote anything, but I won't be able to do anything. Now as the teacher, if I say, okay, I would like to give, 1 or 2 students, or maybe even all students, the ability to write on this after I've kind of given them some directions. If I go back to share, and now where it says my test student account is a viewer, if I click on that and I change them to an editor, and then I'm going to click save. Okay, so now it shows me that my test student can edit this. And it will sometimes take a second, I'll say, and sometimes even on your account, so you can kind of see, there it goes. So on my student account, my little eyeball just changed to a pen. So now the student can edit this document. So if I click on that little pen tool, I now have my tools over here off onto the side. So I'm going to get the pen, and we'll maybe grab a different color. And what we want to do for this is, the teacher is asking us a would you rather. And so maybe we'll say you're just going to draw a X on the side that you would rather do. So I'm going to put my X right there as a student. So I put the X there as a student on my iPad. And then when I look at the teachers, it is now showing up on here. Now it's pretty dim. I didn't draw it very dark. So it's probably not how you would do it, but it still shows you how the student can write on here, and then the teacher will see it on the main board, or all the other students in the class would also be able to see it. So we'll say, okay, so we do this little activity, and I've got some student who is, they're just drawing all over and kind of messing it all up, and it just doesn't really look right. So on the teacher's end, what I can do is I can go back to share, and I can say, okay, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to take you off from editing. So I can click on that student and change them back to just being a viewer. So now that student can't do that anymore. And so on my student account, again, it'll kind of take a second, and it's now saying I need to reload, and now I just have that eyeball again. So I am just a viewer. And maybe the teacher thinks, oh man, this is super messy. I'm going to click clear frame, and now it's all cleared out. Okay, so that's kind of how you can share it with your students. Like I said, there's a bunch of different methods, and it sort of depends on how you want your students to interact with this. Also, one more, if you want your students to each have their own copy of this, which there's a lot of different Jamboards that might, or templates for Jamboard that might be beneficial for your students to have their own copy, you basically can give this to them in the same way as you would any other assignment in Google Classroom. So if I go to classwork and create an assignment, and then when I click on add from Google Drive, I'm going to grab, this is the most recent thing I've edited. This is the Jamboard file, and I click on that file, and I need to make sure that I click students, or make a copy for each student. So if I make sure that I click on that, and then obviously I would name it all, everything that the student needs, then this is going to give this Jamboard to the student as their own copy. So then that way they aren't working on the same one that everybody else can see. And that might be beneficial if you just want this sort of as a whiteboard that your students can use sort of on their own for different practice. And that can be a really handy use of it as well. Okay, so the last thing that we're going to cover with this is kind of how to really design these Jamboards and what are some different ideas that you can use Jamboard for. Now, I have a whole bunch of links down in the description box below for different websites that either have free templates that you can get for Jamboard, or there's even a link for a Google Drive folder where I have just compiled a bunch of different Jamboard templates that are different things you can do. There's like a really neat magnetic letter Jamboard where you just have all these letters and you can have students spell out words. Or there's different things for maybe a class meeting that you would want to use Jamboard for, or different sort of math. There's a lot of stuff with math for this since you can draw it out. Or there's a lot of different things for maybe an icebreaker, or kind of a daily question thing for your class, or questions for the teacher that you would have students hop on here and ask you questions so that you don't have to be stuck answering questions all day long, and you can just look at them at the end of the day. So check those links out below, because there really is a ton of different things that you can use Jamboard to do, and it's just super versatile for that reason. However, I also wanted to kind of show some of this. So I went through and made this template really quick for Jamboard. It maybe took me 10 minutes to put all this stuff together for this video, just as a sample. And what I used for this is a program called Canva. And if you've never heard of Canva before, Canva is a great tool for kind of creative publishing tools. So Canva has a lot of templates for making maybe a poster for your classroom, or a brochure, or a really neat looking a website, or a neat looking worksheet if you need that for your class. But the cool thing with Canva is they also have a lot of templates for displays. So if you want to just put together a PowerPoint or a Google Slides and you're just sick of kind of what you're normally finding, there's a lot of cool templates for presentation type of things as well. And that's what this was. I pretty much opened up these different things. I changed a handful of stuff. I downloaded it as an image, and then I imported it just as a background image into Google Jamboard so the students can see this, but they can't mess with this at all. So that's one kind of nice thing about this too. So a couple of different things. So I've got a title page here. There was one, it gives kind of a daily question. Students can hop onto this and add their sticky note. You can kind of see I can move it around. So I already had a sample one put in there, but they just click on that sticky note thing and they type their answer and they place it somewhere on the screen. I've got one that is basically an area for them to work out a problem. So maybe I would have the whole class do this individually, or maybe I would do this, just have one kid kind of work on their own device instead of coming up to the board in the front. Obviously, we can't do some of these things right now because of COVID restrictions. So we could have a kid basically work on the board from their own device in their seat, but it will still show on the board. I've got a would you rather, so this is kind of an icebreaker type of thing. So students kind of vote on something. It's kind of a nice way to get to know each other. And then there's also a question of the day, sort of like that fraction thing, but this one's maybe a little bit more fun. So you can do all these really kind of neat things, and you can make these backgrounds super fast and easy with Canva. So if we go onto Canva and set up an account, it's a free for teachers type of thing. We get to this screen, and I'm going to click on school, because that's going to have the more education related materials, and I want a presentation. So the first thing is it's going to give me a whole bunch of templates, and you'll see right away I basically picked the very first template that shows up on here when I made my sample. So this one that says mathematics lesson, that's what I clicked on in order to do the sample. So when I click on that, it shows me all of these different slides I can choose from, and we'll say, maybe I like this one. And I can go through and I can change this text, I can change this picture, I can move it all around. It's a very simple editing environment, but when it looks the way I'd like it to look, if I just click on download, and I don't want a PDF for this, I just want a picture file so I can upload it as my background. So if I click on PNG, because that's gonna be a nice quality image, and I just click on download. If I had more than one slide in here, it would also want to know which slide I want to download, so that's kind of a side note with this, but it's going to say, okay, it's done. And so now when I go back to my Jamboard, I've got a brand new frame. I'm going to set my background, so we're going to upload from my computer. And we'll just get this picture that I just made. And it's going to upload that picture as my background. And so now I can have students do whatever I'd like them to do on top of this background. So it's a really easy way to kind of quickly create your own templates with Google Jamboard. So that's Google Jamboard in a nutshell. I hope this was helpful for you, and I hope that you can find a way to use this in your classroom. Please let me know if there's anything else I can help you with in terms of Jamboard, or even other digital whiteboards. If you have suggestions for ones that work better or ones that you like better, let me know, and we can kind of explore those ones as well. So have a great rest of the week, everyone.